The following is a presentation of the Ncredible and Black Hollywood Live Networks. The following is a presentation of the Black Hollywood Live Network, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. Hollywood redefined. From Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is Black Hollywood Live, Breaking Into. Featuring in-depth interviews with today's most influential entertainment figures, highlighting their tips, tricks, and techniques on breaking into the entertainment industry.
You're listening to Black Hollywood Live.
And now, the host of Black Hollywood Live, Breaking Into.
Hey everyone, you're watching Black Hollywood Live Breaking Into. I am your host, Derrial Christon, and here joining me is Jessica King.
Hello.
Our very special guest today is one of the most sought after producers, directors. He's also the president and partner of Tri Destined Studios. Trey Haley is with us today.
Thank you very much.
How you doing, man?
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for coming in. You are a busy, busy man.
Hey man, you know what? Really blessed to be able to do what we love to do out here, man, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you have got a really amazing story after we were doing some research on you and just how you kind of started off in the business. I know you you went to the University of North Texas, correct?
Absolutely.
And you studied radio, television, and film.
Yeah, it was a degree. It's called radio, television, film.
Okay.
It's a typical communications degree. Sometimes it says communications, sometimes it's radio, television, film. Mm-hmm. But it's all the same thing, basically.
Now, at that time, at a young age, did you know that you were going to follow the path that you have today?
Yeah, you know, I always kind of knew I was going to be in the entertainment business through high school, and I thought I actually was going to be in the music business. And then more and more I was around some friends that were in acting, and, you know, I was reading scripts with them and giving them direction, even though I was giving them direction, mm-hmm. you know, and loving certain kind of films that I was watching, you know, even from, like, you know, obviously Spike Lee and seeing movies like Boomerang and, believe it or not, like movies like even, you know, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
Those were movies that were just like, they just stuck with me. You
yeah.
know? Mm-hmm. Just different things when you see audience reactions to things. And, you know, when you see images like in Boomerang or certain movies like that you see the impact of how people see themselves in a different kind of way. You know, those are kind of movies that kind of inspired me to get into it. And when I was at the University of North Texas, I did an internship that ended up turning into a job as a cable programmer at this cable company. And that's when it really all came together for me. You know, when I was editing there, shooting my own stuff. As the cable programmer, at the end of the night, I had all this equipment in front of me. So after I finished studying, I was like, man, let me take advantage of all this equipment. Mm-hmm. And man, I stayed up till 3, 4 o'clock at night sometimes, and I'm like wide awake. Then I knew this is what I wanted to do. So
that's so cool. What a great opportunity.
Yeah, that was kind of the beginning.
It was the passion right at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, after college, you took your career to Los Angeles, where we are now. But, you know, Hollywood is so saturated with more and more people moving here each day. How did you manage to stay positive and optimistic and stand out from the crowd?
Wow. You know, when I moved to L.A., my dad is an attorney, and, you know, he said, when you don't know anybody in Los Angeles, how are you going to do this, you know? And literally, I really didn't have any relationships here when I first moved here. It was just kind of like I saw that sign, that Hollywood sign, and I knew this was the first step, you know. And
that dream.
Right. But, I just came here. I got a job, and, you know, I met just putting it out there. I just figured along the way, I figured it out, meeting people, went to a couple of film festivals. I even took a couple of classes at some local film schools out here just to decide, you know, it's like, let me just figure out where the people are and then kind of navigate from there. And, you know, I was at this thing called Doughboys Dozens. It was out here a long time ago, and there I met my business partner, Indy Brown, and a couple of friends that were just doing some acting things with, you know, I would take a camera, they were shooting, they would be the actors in it, and that's just kind of the start of it, you know. And from there, I ended up getting my first opportunity to be on a set of a music video with Darren Grant. Was doing this video with, he was doing this video, I forgot the artist right now, but he was doing this art video, and I just kind of doing some extra work. Figured I'd just be on the set. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't forget this, but it was Brian McKnight's video. So
Brian McKnight.
Yeah, and I snuck behind these seats and just introduced myself to Darren. And, you know, he gave me an opportunity. He said, you know what, I'm kind of busy right now, but you seem like a nice guy. Afterwards, come to the trailer. And I'll kind of give you some breakdown of how you can maybe kind of navigate your way through this business.
Oh, wow.
The next week, he said, this is what you should do. I'm going to give you a job as an intern on my next video next week. Really, you want to meet the producers. Me, I do a couple of videos here and there, but the producers will always hire you. And that's kind of how, you know, you get in there and you just work it.
Mm-hmm.
If they see you doing your thing. And the next week I was there, and from there, I mean, it was kind of strange. Like, you know, 6 months later, I'm working, now I'm consistently working in the business.
Wow.
And then you've kind of seen both sides, because you worked, as you were mentioning, in the music directing portion of the business, and then now you're films and big productions.
Right.
What are the similarities and differences for you, since you've kind of experienced both of those?
Yeah, you know, and I thought that was going to be my breakthrough, because I saw everybody coming as a director. It seemed like everybody was coming through the music video world. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, oh, this must be the path, the way to get, you know, just my limited knowledge of how to break through the industry.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the difference is, you know, as I was working around Darren and all the producers in that world, you know, I really just found that everybody has to make their own path. You got to find your own way. Don't get stuck into formulas that you see out there that, you know, sometimes it works, but sometimes you make your own path. And really what ended up happening is myself and Indy, my business partner, we end up getting some funds to buy our own camera. I have an editing background, so I was editing stuff, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's like, let's just shoot a film. We got some friends together, and we shot our first film. It's called Room for Seven. And that was the first film, you know, and even Darren was like, how you shoot a movie before I shot a film? You know, you know, you're doing the big Beyonce videos, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, I was just trying to figure it out, you know. And then at the same time where we were doing that, I did an internship at Morgan Freeman's company.
Oh, wow.
And that gave me a good inside look on how movie companies kind of are structured, and I was doing coverage at the same time answering telephones, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but it gave me a good inside look. They had a great internship program, because every week or so they would even sit you down in a room and give you, like, if you had questions about the industry, they would kind of break down certain things, pre-production, production, how to pitch, all this kind of stuff. So that was really helpful as well. So.
And would you suggest to someone who is listening or watching us right now that they should, if they want to break into this business, that they should start off in an internship to kind of get their skills together?
Absolutely. I mean, find an internship where you find that it's not just picking up phones. Like, these people are really involved. Like a smaller niche production company like them, I mean, they were doing big films, but it still was, you know, and in the day it was like 7, 8 people in the room.
Yeah.
Versus working at a big studio sometimes where, you know, you just kind of get lost in the room. You're just one of the 100 of guys in there, or girls, you know what I'm saying? So I'd say find a niche, find somebody that, you know, you feel like you would be passionate about. Like, they seem like they have an internship program that they care about it, about what you know, your goals looking forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely how that, and believe it or not, you know, you say breaking in. The way I end up getting that job is because I was doing that stuff with the music videos, but I knew, I was like, there's got to be something else. I got to get on these lots, got to do these movies. So I took a job as a courier, and I figured a courier job would get me on the lot, you know.
Smart.
And it worked out. But they have, you know, the courier jobs, they have the shirts and a certain look that you go in so you know it's a courier. Right. What I would do is I would go in and get my stuff. I worked on the Fox lot in the Century City area. But when I left, when I got all the scripts and everything I had to drop off, I change up, put my button-up shirt on, and change up my whole look. So when I'm going in there, people just thought I was just working there.
Yeah.
You know, and then they come to find out, hey, you're the courier, okay, you know. But that kind of turned into an internship, because somebody gave me a list of internships that happened throughout the industry.
Oh.
Like I think it was like an insider type of list, because it was kind of vetted. If you knew this list, more than likely these guys are okay, or ladies, or gentlemen, you know, so whatever. So it just kind of happened to work out that way. You know, you just got, like I said, you got to work your own magic and figure out how to, if you got to do something different. If you do the same thing, you're going to get the same results,
right.
You know. So you'll be very frustrated. I mean, you got to have a lot of faith, and you got to really believe in it and not think that it's just going to happen overnight. For some it does, but I don't think anybody, even when it happens overnight, somebody put in a lot of work for when it did happen quicker than the average. Something there, some work was put in at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you've had several mentors. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from them that helped you to become as successful as you are today?
Absolutely. Well, watching people, some of the bigger mentors, mentorship comes through a lot of ways, So I read a lot of books, and so when I read books like, there's a book by Quincy Jones. I read his autobiography, and that was more inspirational for me in a lot of ways than anything else, because when you see a person fight from where they came from to get to where they had and break all these doors, and they had nothing, they were what they had to go through to get there. And I'm thinking to myself, I never even had this much, so I shouldn't have to complain about what I'm going through, because these people broke down so many more doors than I did to get here. So when I read their stories about consistency, overcoming, dedication, just 100% believing in what they do, those are the moments for me that are inspiring. People closer to me, luckily my family was involved, and my dad is an inspiration from afar, because to see him go after his dreams as well and not have much to help him get there, that was inspirational. But in the industry, personally, just watching, I just take the lessons of watching from afar and doing my best to watch and learn. I've been told, make sure, take away the no. Remove the no.
Remove the no.
When you go into a meeting, when you have a room, if you walk in there and you have if there's a no that's possibly in there, figure out how to remove it so that they don't say no.
Right.
Give them the best presentation possible. I had a chance to work with Michael Phillips pitching this project, The Flamingo Kid, and I just called him. And he answered.
That's simple.
His assistant answered, and I just took a chance on it, And I don't know if that'll happen all the time for everybody, but sometimes it's just being bold and removing the fear.
Yeah.
And not being worried about, somebody's going to take your idea or whatever. Sometimes you just have to go for it, and because you'll end up being in the same place. If they say no, if they end up saying, you're still back at the same place where you started.
That's true.
Right?
Nothing lost. Yeah.
Right. But I just took all the gifts and talents that I know of at this point, and I put a visual together, and I walked in that room with him, and I put a whole concept together, and next thing you know, this was my first pitch along all the studios. We went around, and it was incredible. It's just, but you use everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And you use everything that you have to present to people, and that's just it's just been it's really worked out,
Yeah.
And with you saying you use everything, you have both the directing and producing experience.
Yep.
What is the difference between the two for someone who may not know? Because a lot of times you look on IMDb or you look at people's credits, and a lot of times it says director or producer, but what's the difference of the two?
Right. So, at our company, I'm, as a president, I'm more of the networker guy, meetings and kind of the startup phase behind the scenes. So there's several levels of producing. So there's the producers who they get things set up, There's those producers. They just go in meetings, they get a deal put together, and then they move on to the next deal, and they get a producer credit. But my business partner, Indy Brown, at our company, she's like the producer, where it's like she's doing the budgets, and she's actually hands-on putting the project together, and she's our CEO of our company, and you met Indy before. And then there's Veronica, who is also a producer, but she's more of a creative producer as well, and she's great with the putting all the, she comes in between the creative and the business, So producing is all of the facets. I mean, you have the co-producers, you have all these things, but producing is really that level of where you come in and you're making the project happen behind the scenes. You're like in sports, the owner of the team, making sure all of the things, payments, making sure everything is running so the team can play.
Yeah.
And the director is a lot of like the coach,
okay.
Putting the plays together so that the team, your actors, quote unquote, the players, are doing their thing on the court or on the field. So the director is really over the whole vision of it, making sure, but at the end of the day, it's a collaboration. Sometimes a producer has creative elements that they help you in, and I think the best directors are open to collaboration in a lot of ways, because you're more flexible and more people are going to want to work with you.
Right.
The more you're stuck, there's a lot of successful directors that way as well, but you got to know why everybody just might not want to work with you all the time, because you're just coming in this is the way it's got to be, and then you just got to be open to the people saying no possibly to that if they don't want it, you know. So there's flexibility. That's where independent filmmaking come in, because you can have your vision, you can stick with it. But you know, like when you're on the studios and stuff like that, when you have a lot of people's hands on to this, they're coming in and bringing you into a project, they're going to want to have their vision in that as well. So you have to be open and collaborative.
And collaborations.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have that you see between producers and directors?
So in directing, the biggest misconception is that you're the only voice on the on the set.
You're the only boss.
Yeah, there's like 4 other people. You have like other people involved, and everybody thinks it's just the director's vision, you know. But in the end of the day, I think why most directors, it comes out that way is because they say if the movie does great, it's great on the director and the whole team. But if the movie does horrible, who directed that movie? You know what I'm saying? They don't say who produced it. They say who directed it.
Yeah.
But and then there's producers. It's a lot of, you know, for most of the time on the producing side, the misconceptions are that you can just sit back and do nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, you know, well, I just did something. You know, you really have to analyze, I would say, ask people what they did as a producer. And that'll really give you an assessment of what they did on the projects that they said they worked on, you know, because like I said, some people, they set up the deal. Some people, they actually went in there, the hands-on, they were there every single day, making sure they're the nuts and bolts of that movie and making sure it really goes through, you know. And some people, they got the distribution for it, and they get a producer credit for it. So that's still a part of producing, but there's just different elements to it that you have to just kind of know what it is when you're dealing with people, when they say, oh, I'm a producer. Well, what did you do?
What did you do?
Yeah,
Right. What does that
what did
actually
you do
mean?
on the movie? And then that'll kind of layer it out, because deals have to happen. And sometimes you got to give people producer credits. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
And then with this, you started Tri Destined Studios, and what was your motivation for starting it? Yeah,
well, the motivation was definitely, we look out there and you see a lack of the industry, it was just the projects, the images that were out there. You know, we just wanted to be a company that showcased a diverse amount of it, make sure we added to the diversity, I guess, in the industry. So like one of our first films was called Why Am I Doing This? It was about a movie with an Asian and a black guy, you know, starring in it. Even in some of our movies, you know, we even make sure that if it's a leading cast that's African American, that our background and everybody, it looks like the real world, though. You know, it's just not like one color to it. You know, the last film, we just did a film that we just literally wrapped this week. But you know what, when you read, sometimes, you know, writers, when they're writing, they're just writing from the way they see in it, you know. But then you come in and you layer it. So you maybe make the lawyer an Asian or a Latino person. You know, sometimes you may not see that all the time. Or you make it may have been a white person, but you make it a black person. This white person that you would typically think, oh, that's the typical black person, you make it white. You know, you just switch it up a little bit to make it feel different, so people see something unique, and it's like, oh, you know what? I never usually see it go that way, you know. And just make sure you're representing everyone. So that, as a company, Tri Destined Studios, the goal was to have a place where people could come. They could bring projects that they could feel like their voice would be heard. They could play a place where they feel like they could be seen, and a place where people felt comfortable and good. Like, you know, when we finish it every day, we wrap everybody every day, just like a full wrap at the end of the show. Like our actors, they come in, Indy does, ladies and gentlemen, so-and-so is wrapped for the day. And they're like, this like yelling and screaming, so it's like a family environment. And so that's what we give, you know, it's just like we want to bring that fun and make people feel like, wow, this is what I came here for, and at the same time bring quality projects to the table. So,
at what point did you realize that there was a strong lack of diversity in the film industry?
Well, you know, it's just, when you see movies like I said, Boomerang, and when you see that that's not a common movie that you see, and most of the time it's something that's like a straight, you know, it's hood, or it's got, you know, our characters are just, we're educational wise, it doesn't feel like we're educated people, or certain things like that, or the women are portrayed a certain kind of way in a scene, and it's just like all the time, it's like almost cookie cutter.
Right.
That's when you know There's a lack
Something needs to be
because
done.
when it says when this movie ends and you walk out the door, it's nothing that looks like that it's no
Right.
one look to everything, So that's what we just want to do, create different projects that represent different things like that. So when you see it, you're like, wow, we did a movie called Black Coffee, and that was what that was about. You can put messages in your films about empowerment, working, instead of always working for someone else, find a way to work for yourself and empower yourself and how to remove that fear. And we had a character who was dealing with the fear of working for his own self. And that, and then his friend, we used coffee, but the director's name is Mark Harris. He used, the guy was selling coffee.
Okay.
And his cousin was making a lot of money selling coffee. But he just couldn't understand why he was doing this. His cousin was like, what are you talking about? I mean, I got to get the job, I got to work, I got benefits, and but he was like, but man, how much empowering it would be. But those type of storylines to put in there, those words, people hearing that stuff,
It's important.
So some movies have a lot of messages in them. Some movies are just straight entertainment, but the images that you see, the visuals that you see, you're like, wow, we look great right now, or I never saw someone portrayed that way or whatever, so
Right.
yeah.
And then one of your company mottos is actually destined to change the perception of the world, which goes with what you're saying.
Yes.
How far do you think you've come in fulfilling that motto?
I'm feeling pretty good about it right now. I feel like we're on path. And ultimately we want, it's inspiring to walk into this building, and see a place where people are making opportunities, and you guys have everything set up in here. So we want to have something like that as well. We're working on, owning facilities where we can come in. That's what's pretty inspiring to me at the most about Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
How he has his own facility.
Yeah, he's done it big.
He can really make it. He can make his movies, or anybody can come to his live and make a film.
Right.
So Tri Destined wants to build something like that here in Los Angeles for ourselves. It's like Raleigh Studios. You can build. Just you can start building it up.
Right. How do you make sure that every decision that your company makes applies to that motto?
Well, when a script comes in, and that's where these, internships and different things like that. When I was working at Revelations as an intern, when I read those scripts, it had to meet the motto. It had to meet what the company represented, what they were looking for. And so the same thing here. And even if we like a story and we're like, wow, this is good, but there's no redemption to it, or there's certain elements that we'll try to add those things to it to make sure it still fits the motto,
Right.
or it fits our brand as a company.
And then with this, if someone wanted to follow in your footsteps to being a director owning their own production company, what advice would you give them?
The biggest thing I would say, like I said, is, just trust your instincts. Trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to jump off the ledge and go for it. So many times there's the dream, the thought we have, and then there's the action.
Yeah.
To do it. And there's like a big divide between the dream and the action for a lot of people because of a lot of things, maybe how you were raised or whatever the case may be. But in the end of the day, all you have is the day.
Yeah.
All you have is today. That's all I would say. It's really just going for it and trusting in yourself and believing in yourself, making sure you're around a lot of people who are positive. You got to keep your circles kind of small a little bit, because these people will put things in your ear, ask you all these questions, why, and if people are questioning you, you're probably doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know what
The
I'm saying?
dream busters.
Right. Dream busters are kind of good because they let you sometimes know, though, that you're on the right path.
Right.
Because if they're saying, oh, I can see that, then maybe it's a little, you want the positive people around you, but you also want to make sure that people are pushing you and people are encouraging you and believing in your dream. So that's another part of it. It's just your circle of people around you and writing your goals down every day and just following through with them. Like the follow through is just inconsistency. Just every day doing it. Like never stop. Just like, I think that's why I use a lot of analogies with athletes because I feel like they, in a large way, we can really see how they elevate based on their consistent work.
That's true.
Whatever they're doing, whatever we see, they did like 90% more behind the scenes to
Right.
get there. So they just show up and they're great. it's the work behind the scenes that really gets them there. So, yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges you and your company have faced with getting projects produced?
You know what? The biggest challenge would be making sure you're working with people who stick with their word. You got to know how to find your way and navigate quickly through people who are just talking the talk, and they're serious.
Right.
You know, because that can waste a lot of your time. You'll think you're getting it together, putting stuff together, and then you put all this work in it, and it didn't work out.
It didn't work out.
And you passed up stuff, and you did this, and you could have, but you just got to. That comes back to, sometimes trial and error is the thing you have to go through.
Yeah.
Right.
To figure it out. So that's one of the challenges though that we've had. Also, just funding for projects is a tough thing for people, but this is where it comes back to consistency. Once you get an opportunity, take advantage of it the most you can by promoting it, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you can, to make people know about that thing, because that's the opportunity right there for everybody to know. And so many people, I'll say this, they're worrying about the $5 to $10 million movie. I got this big film, 2030, and they're waiting around for that. And then opportunity, maybe only 300,000. And I can't do that. That's too small. I'm gonna do the 10. Wait. Well, you're waiting. While you're waiting, and you just passed up an opportunity to show somebody right now what you could do.
Yep.
And then you're waiting 3 years later, 4 years later, and then you're frustrated and you're mad at Hollywood, but you shouldn't be mad at yourself, because you had the opportunity in your hand that could show. I mean, that other one's not going away. Just keep working at what you have. What comes to you it's a lot of times it's on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's coming to you for a reason, because this is the opportunity.
And then how do you go about selecting the projects that you choose? Because I would assume that outside of the ones you're creating, people have to be coming at you all the time with different things that they'd like you to produce or direct.
Yeah.
Is it a challenge to kind of cipher through what you're going to put out?
Going through the scripts is tough. I mean, we get a lot of scripts. A lot of people submit scripts to us, and there's a lot of good scripts. It's just figuring out, like you said, one, the funding for things, two, the what fits within our brand, and then timing. Sometimes it may take, like, we might have a couple of things going on right now, and it's not that we don't like your script, or it's not that we don't like your script. It's just right now we can't do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we refer scripts to other people, or say, hey, other production companies, we let them know about it. But there's some scripts that I know of right now, that, and sometimes we go into meetings with people, and because I've read these scripts, now I know what's out there, and if someone comes up and they it's finding out what people are interested in making.
Yeah.
Not what you just necessarily want to make, but if you go into a meeting, what do they want? And do you have something that fits? And that's where, the jail happens. But you may have read a script that initially you didn't think of that would work, but now it works with this company. So, we're always open to screenplays and reading them. So it's just, we have people who go through coverage now. See, now I have some people that read coverage, So this is how you do it right here, But so it's great. It's great.
And then diversity, you mentioned, is one of the reasons you started your company. We are in a state right now where we have 12 Years a Slave. That's why we are getting more Black African-American productions and directors and companies like yours. Do you see that this is something that is going to continue to happen in the industry, or is this a fad that you think will kind of, it's hot right now, but then it's going to kind of fade out?
No, I actually think that now, due to the digital world, we're going to see way more projects that are out there and more people seeing how to get them made, because the cost is lower. Now you can just pull a camera out, and if you, especially if you're super talented, and have a gift to mean at least knowing how to make a project, you can get it seen now, and there's way more options than having to shoot it and wonder these 15, 20 places are the only choices I have to give, and then worry about what they're looking for. Now you can do it yourself, and if you shoot it and no one wants it, you can put it on YouTube and promote it your own way.
That's right, you sure can. Yep.
And then and you never know how you can catch your own wave on that, and then people will end up coming to you. So you eliminate the no,
Eliminate the no.
There you go.
Well, speaking of costs, California costs have gotten higher and higher throughout the years. A lot of production companies are filming and scouting locations out of states and even out of the country. Has your company encountered any of these kind of cost dilemmas, and what is kind of like the secret to keeping production costs low?
Yeah, You know, we did a project. We've done a couple of projects. One in Chicago. We've done one in Atlanta. There was one in Miami that we've done. But majority of the projects we do are here in Los Angeles. And the biggest thing is figuring out it's relationships. You know, who you know as actors that would be interested in it, and figuring out how to put a team of people together to come in for the budget that you have, and you know, with these scripts, you got to know what script fits within the budget. You know, like you don't want to have 100 scenes that you have to do and then think you can only do it for this amount of money. Yeah. Then you might I mean, so really the script can dictates a lot of things for you. So, and then obviously there's just scripts in general that, you know, and it's based in Boston or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So those are those elements. But generally speaking, I think if people, in using your relationships, like, you know, we know a lot of people with homes, and how you treat your relationships are crucial, because once you call on that favor, say, hey, I need to use your house. Here's how much we can pay you. You know, hopefully you treat these people right. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, but it just, each movie brings its own particular, like, form of things that you have to work with. You know, it's like a world you have to work with. But if you go into the script looking for it and not just saying, oh, wow, this is amazing, and then you're stuck in a situation where you have to, I mean, there are all these incentives in these other states. They're great. But really, Los Angeles, to me, is just like, it's the best place to do it, because you can take advantage of more of your talent right here. You don't have to fly only 3 out now and worry about the talent in the other states. You know, you'll feel it sometimes, you know, because it's just they don't have the same experience level of acting sometimes. And then you get lucky, and sometimes they are there. But if you're here, you don't have to worry about the flights. You can, you know, the comfort zone is way better here. So, you know, I hope too that California, you know, there's some incentives they're here, but you have to fight for them a lot harder to get them. Yeah. But I feel like California has to come back around, because it is so many people going out. I mean, it's people moving to Atlanta now. Yeah. Just like it's a whole nother place, you know, like, to make films.
And Canada.
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 Toronto,
is so much
in
Toronto.
It's great. I mean, for those, you know, if you go out there and you do it, you can maximize it, though. I mean, if you really need to maximize it, especially like a budget that's in $1 million, $2 million, you go to Toronto, you go to Detroit. One time in Detroit, you know. Well,
Detroit needs the financial help anyway.
Right.
Exactly. But that's a different subject.
And I think there's a couple of the states now that are about to get in the mix, and they're bringing their incentives into it now. Yeah. So it's definitely a conversation for a lot of people. Yeah. And
then with your career, it seems like you've had your hand in a lot of things, and you've added author to your resume. You have a new self-help book coming out. What is your thing? What inspired you to create this book, and where do you pull your inspiration just to even want to teach other people?
Yeah, you know, over the years, you know, I'm pretty, most people say, pretty positive guy, you know, like the Derrial. He just always that positive energy. Just, are you ever mad? Do you ever get upset? And, you know, my business partners will say Trey gets upset a lot. You know what I'm saying? But most people, 90% of the time, what you get from me is what you get from me. It's just, it's not too high, it's not too low. It's right here. And I'm always trying to tell people, just stay focused, you know, encourage, you know, focus. And, you know, people just kept saying, man, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You know, and writing never really was a thing for me. But over time, you know, it's just one of those things when people keep telling you something about you, you got to listen. You know, eventually. Then my mother, one time I was saying something to her, and she said, Trey, you got to write a book. I did good with you. You should write a book about that. And that did it for me at that point. And really what it was about is, I think there's a conversation I have about people finding their own thing, you know, finding your path, what makes you unique from head to toe, inside and out, that this not a, you know, there's, you know, they say there's a line that says, God didn't, you know, he didn't make a mistake with anybody here. Everybody has a purpose, every single purpose.
Absolutely.
There's no extra people on the earth, right? So what is it that stands out with you? And then work that, you know, and don't look to the left, don't look to the right. Just focus in. You can be inspired, but find what makes you. And some of us have similar gifts, but nobody has the exact gift. You know what I'm saying? So once you stay here and zoned in on who you are, and constantly every day working on you, there will be no, you won't you will lose the frustration of wondering, well, why not me?
Right.
You know, a lot of people say, well, how did this happen to him or her? Well, you shouldn't be worried about that, because actually they may be helping you to get where you need to go,
Right.
and carving
Preach.
a path. You know?
Preach on.
And sometimes we all are going through different things, because we're going to be running into different people, and we're all just testimonies to help another individual here, to help another person. So where that other person may, you'd be like, well, you know, you go down their resume, I guess, and say, I've done all of this, and how did they get this? And they've only done this one thing, you know, or two things. Well, you're comparing. You shouldn't even be you're comparing an apple to an orange, because it's just totally different. That's that person's thing. What's your thing? You know, and you keep focusing on your thing, you know. So that's what the book, it goes through like 7 things that can encourage people to focus on and hone in on, to help them to stay focused. And it's also written a lot for high school and college kids too, because a lot of people, you know, are just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Especially like in high school, when you see the athlete or the smart kid over here, and then you're trying to figure out what majority of kids in school are like, I'm not that. And then they either drop out or they just get discouraged or whatever, instead of just, so this book, I feel like it'll help too. So I wrote it real simple. You know, sometimes you read these books and you got to read it 3-4 times.
Right.
It's like, this
I think I
deep.
got a couple of those.
Yeah. They're good, but I don't think the average like kid would read it, you know? So it's simple, and then with the visual element of our company, I feel like we can bring some visual elements to it to make it also interactive. So
Look forward to reading that.
yeah.
Well, if you could choose one word to describe your career at this moment, what would it be?
One word to describe. Really, I would say, you know, you use this word, but blessed. Blessed. Because I know from other people around how hard it is to make this, and sometimes you realize there has to be a special something happening with us, because like within 6 months we've made 4 films, you know.
Wow.
And
you sleep still.
I still sleep. Yeah. So, and that's just, I mean, you know, and some of the relationships that we've carved out, like we're working with this gentleman, Carl Weber, right now, and that how he wants to take his books and all these books, these New York Times best-selling books that he's written, and coming to us, wanting to team up with us to produce these projects. He's funding the projects. You know, it's just like, but I think it's one of those things when you lay out the vision and you push and you work on it and you work on it, it really manifests itself. So that's why I say it's blessed, because we're working in what makes it work. You know, we're working in what we feel was put on our spirit to do, and it's manifesting. So.
And what would you like to conquer next in your career? You've done so much already, but what's
you know, like I tell everybody,
for you?
I tell everybody always, I just take this thing day by day a little bit too, because truthfully, where we want to go is, you know, building into a scenario where we're not only just doing it independently, but we are building with the studios, because there are opportunities where it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So we have our independent side where it is totally, you know, we're producing it, we're bringing it in, but we're also, when I say working with the studios, working with them in a way to have them see what we're doing times 10, you know, because everybody says there's a lot of money to be made in this industry with, you know, African American films making all this money. But it's like 100 films that come out a year, and it's still only 5 or 6.
That's crazy.
But if it makes a lot of money, then it should be more films, you would think, in the mix. There's all these films in India and all these films all over the world and making all this money. But when you really look at the the picture, compared to it, it's still different.
It's small, yeah.
So I don't know what's out there and what's, you know, why it's not as much more opportunities out there. But we would like to be more of a voice, to be in that situation where people see more of the films out there at a large level. So.
Well, I applaud you. I'm very impressed with just everything that you're doing, and how you're even helping just our community with diversity, and just getting the messages out there with positive films and films that we really need to see, and young and old people can relate to. Where can people find you on social media if they want to learn more about your book that's coming out in the fall, or just more about Tri Destined Studios? Yeah,
so you can go to Tri Destined at Tri Destined, TRIDESTINED. That's Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, I guess, whatever. And then there's Trey Haley TDS, and we're always, that's my Instagram and Twitter. and Trey Haley on Facebook. So we're always putting stuff out there. Our website is tridestined.com. So those are ways you can find us, you know.
Well, I will be looking, and I'm sure our viewers will be looking.
Definitely.
Jessica, where can they find you?
Find me on Twitter at I am Jessica King.
You can find me at Derrial Christon on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you for tuning in to Breaking Into with Trey Haley. Once again, it's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to reading that self-help book. Maybe you can give me a few tips that I don't know about.
Right.
And we will continue to follow you, man.
All right. Thank you again. Thank you for bringing me on Black Hollywood Live.
Thank you.
Congratulations with all your successes in even just the past couple months. It seems like you're really doing your thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
From producers Maria Menounos, Derrial Christon, Tiana Hobson, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire BHL crew, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I'm your BHL announcer, Scipio. Instagram me at Planet Scipio. Thank you for tuning in.
Hollywood Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.